Right, if you're still with us or you just joined us, you're still on to Enterprise Weekend. And now let's get to our main conversation for today. Bernard Odoh, former Vice Chancellor of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, UNIZIK, is accused of fraudulently obtaining his professorship. The Federal University Gusau Fugas in Zamfara State denied ever employing or promoting Odoh to a professorship, labeling his documents as a forgery.
And President Bola Tinubu recently dissolved UNIZIK's governing council and removed its vice chancellor and registrar over allegations of an illegal appointment process. According to Tinubu's special advisor, Odoh's appointment as UNIZIK vice chancellor violated university laws promoting federal intervention.
Odoh, however, insists his appointment followed due process and is challenging his removal in court. He claims two assessors and a former Fugas registrar support his professorship claims.
Yet, Fugas management refutes this, alleging administrative fraud. They assert that Odoh never worked at the university and documents supporting his professorship, certified in 2024 by a former registrar long out of office, are invalid under the Evidence Act of 2011.
Very true, but Fugas highlights that the former registrar used a fake stamp and lacked authority to certify the documents, rendering them legally untenable.
The university deems Odoh's actions as a desperate attempt to bolster his credentials for the UNIZIK role, branding his claims as fraudulent and misleading.
Emeka Madunagu, let's have a conversation now. And of course, we talked about it some days back, and I think it's very important since it's a developing story. Let's look at it for some more. Federal University Gusau, of course, have come up to deny that he was never employed by them. Why do you think this is coming, especially if we have a serious educational ecosystem in Nigeria? Why should this even be talked about in the open space?
Thank you very much. To be the Vice Chancellor of a university in Nigeria is a big deal. You're controlling a big budget, a university with 34,000 students, subvention from government, you have internally generated revenue, you have grants, you have endowments and all those things. There's so much under your control. So, you can see why whenever a new vice chancellor is to be chosen, even provost of a polytechnic, even a rector of a polytechnic or provost of a college of education, you can see the way people cling to, people go to any length to emerge as the winners. So, what that tells us is, it's so embarrassing that this kind of situation can arise in Nigeria of the 21st century. Within the federal government, it's so embarrassing. Federal University Gusau is a federal university. Nnamdi Azikiwe University is a federal university. And both of them are under the National Universities Commission. And so it's NUC now telling us that it doesn't have a record of the professors employed in federal universities. You see, that's part of the problem. Why ASU has been saying that IPPIS should be discontinued.
What's IPPIS?
Integrated personnel payroll system.
Okay.
So now IPPIS, is a collection of workers under the federal government's payroll, covering different sectors. Until recently, the tertiary educational sector was also under IPPIS. I'll try to remember what the other I stands for. I'm sorry. So now, that is Integrated Personnel Payroll Information System.
Okay.
So now, it contained information about the pay grade and all of that of those it had onboarded. Now, ASU was saying that there was a problem with it because there are, academic staff go on sabbatical. And when they go on sabbatical, how do you capture it under IPPIS, which has a rigid which had a rigid template with your salaries, allowances, tax deductions, and all of that. You know, deductions from cooperatives and all of that. But does not factor in all of those sabbaticals and all of those things, you know. So ASU now developed a different payroll system, which has now been adopted by the federal government, you know. So now, are you telling me that in onboarding all this, in onboarding these academic staff, the staff in the academic system, tertiary educational system in Nigeria, that the IPPS does not have the record of this Dr. Bernard Odo, where he had worked, things he had done, and all of that? Is NUC telling us, National Universities Commission telling us that it doesn't have a record of the professors in Nigeria, whether in public universities or private universities or state universities? Then there's a big problem. Because when I was reading this, when I was, you know, meditating on this thing overnight, I felt alarmed. I felt alarmed. Look at what we are battling with from Benin Republic, Benin and Togo. Unapproved universities. Was it not 27,000 people or so? Thousands of people employed in the public and private sectors with unapproved qualifications. And then we're now having a situation where somebody who is at best an assistant professor has now been made the vice chancellor of a university that's supposed to be for a fully qualified professor. The man is saying, you know, he presented documents from a federal university.
Now, talking about the documents, I think at this point, the former registrar of that school is supposed to come out to actually answer some questions, because he was said to have used fraudulent stamp of the Gusau University to stamp and say, okay, he went through.
Yes.
Now, at this point, even though we are questioning Odo, that registrar or the VC that was formerly there is supposed to actually come out to come answer some questions, because at this point, how well can we trust even the VCs of universities?
Oh, thank you. You see, the federal government sacked the governing council of university, removed Odo as the VC, and also removed the registrar.
True.
In fact, it was the removal of the registrar that got me alarmed. Because the registrar is a repository of the records of the university. You have deputy registrar academics, deputy registrar records, deputy registrar admin. There are deputy registrars under him covering every area of the university. So he ought to know, he ought to be fully acquainted with records. And he ought to have, he or she ought to have the knowledge, inside knowledge of how documents are authenticated within the public service of Nigeria. Which the Federal University of Gusau came out to say that there is a way by which documents are authenticated. You know, that he has a footer, you know, and all of that. Then there are stamps and all that. That the person who stamped this left the university, was it 6 years ago? And then how can you be saying that he stamped on what basis? We are talking of 2024. This man left 2018 or thereabouts. Now, how could he have authenticated you? He's no more an employee of this university. So, to that extent, you know, whatever you have presented is fraudulent. Now, Bernard Odo has gone to court. I would like to see how the court will rule on this matter, because it has a lot to do with the image of Nigeria.
Very well.
We don't realize that some of these things damage our image. And you know what? Some of these things also put our people, Nigerians, in the diaspora. They also put them in jeopardy. Because when they hear about something like, say, oh, wait a minute. It has happened in some countries, I think in the UK, whereby, you know, nurses were found, some nurses also were found to have, you know, fraudulent certificates. Yes. And then it affected everybody. It raised questions for everybody. Look, we must be very careful. That is why we must have a system that is foolproof. A system that makes sure that it will be difficult. You know, like the Bible says that it will be easier for a camel, you know, to pass through the eye of a needle. Than it will be easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for you to go anywhere within the public service or the private service with forged documents. For instance, WAEC has a system of authenticating its own documents. NECO, JAMB. That's how JAMB was able to catch all those people who were Mesoma and the rest of them. You know? So we must, NUC, this is a system failure. I'm addressing NUC directly. It's a system failure. It's a system failure because this man is insisting that he's qualified. The university where he's claiming he got qualified, he's saying he didn't get qualified. And he didn't get qualified under them. And if you look into the past, there have been such cases of people who traveled abroad and came back with professorships and said, yes, I'm now a full professor. How? Where? One country like that, you know, so and so country. Look, we have minimum standards. Nigeria is a great country. But do you know what? It's not easy to be great. You must follow international best practices.
Thank you so much, Emeka. Thank you.
All right, that's just about the time we have. I wish we continue on this particular matter, but we just have to, you know, draw the curtain for today. Thank you so very much, Emeka Madunago, for being part of it.
Thank you.
We truly do appreciate you. Choma, thank you as always.
Thank you so much
for being here. All right, people, thank you so very much for keeping a date with us. We truly do appreciate you and promise never to take you for granted. But please do well to visit us. You can always find and reach us at enterprise@tvnews.com. You may like, comment, and follow us on our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike.
And I'm Choma Okohe.
Thank you for watching and have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye from us.
Bye.